need your bicycle!
What? Why?
Because I'm hungry!
Everyman Hybrid is a 2010 Slenderman series and ARG experience based in good old New Jersey, which, going by YouTube horror web series, is just a terrible fucking place to live if you don't want to be harassed by supernatural entities. I've also heard that it smells like horseradish at all times. Fucking Garden State my ass.
No. Bad New Jersey. Bad state. Go to your room.
It's one of the most popular web series on YouTube and is in what is known as the Big Three of Slenderman series, a group containing Marble Hornets, itself, and TribeTwelve. It is also notorious for being incredibly difficult to follow. If you don't have a wiki or a certain 6-part explain series at hand while trying to follow along with this series, it's going to be nearly impossible. That's something I had to say right out of the gate because it was the single biggest hurdle in me attempting to enjoy this web series. I mean, now that I basically understand what's happening, I enjoy it a lot more, but when starting out, I just did not like this series. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. We have a lot to cover and we'd better get started quick before I have to delay this episode even more. Let's look at Everyman Hybrid. The story to Everyman Hybrid is difficult to explain, to put it very lightly. Even a very basic summary could take a pretty damn long time. So let me try to abridge it as much as possible. If you're gonna sit through the story summary, fucking grab a snack and drink, because this will take a while. If you know the story, go ahead and go to this time in the video to skip it, because there's a lot to go over, that's all important. Like, I'm dead serious about that. If you know this story fucking inside and out, skip this. You're not missing anything. So basically, there's these 3 goofballs, Vinny, Evan, and Jeff, who start a YouTube channel about exercising on a budget. Yeah, look at that fucking aspect ratio. That's some good shit there. Then a very obvious Slenderman starts appearing in the background of their videos. This goes on until the actual, real Slenderman appears in one of their houses, though they assume it's the actor they've had playing Slenderman and playing a prank on them. Yep, they've been putting a fake Slenderman in their videos because they've seen Marble Hornets and wanted to make a joke about putting a fake Slenderman on their channel.
Alright guys, so pretty sure by now you've caught on to our whole shtick. We are doing the health food thing obviously, but also we had a little bit of our sick, morbid humor with our little visitor. And we're not going to go into details with where our Slenderman and his end, ours ends and his begins, but let's just say that not all of them are ours, and that kind of worries us.
So we're starting off pretty meta. It's something I haven't really seen done since. Everyman Hybrid does a lot of things I haven't seen done since. More on that later. Anyways, as they continue with the exercise videos, now a bit more cautious, Evan is seen on the blog of a girl named Stephanie called Can You See the Words? Stephanie is going through some similar experiences with Slenderman, and the two groups become even more interlinked when Stephanie becomes fast friends with Jeff's girlfriend Jessa. Jeff soon goes missing searching for Jessa as she's also gone missing, and he returns with different information than he intended to find. Medical documents concerning a Dr. Korenthal, several more of which are discovered throughout the course of the series concerning a group of very troubled children named Evan, Vincent, Jeff, and Stephanie, who Dr. Korenthal adopted as his children. Stephanie is the primary suspect for Jeff's disappearance, and Jeff eventually gets her detained by the police. Following a clue that Jeff found, they search around in a forest until they find a dead body and notice another monster, the Rake, that killed her, and they leave with the paper she had in her hand. The Rake has also been tormenting Jeff's brother Alex, as we see in several videos. So far in the story, sets of coordinates leading to clues regarding the story have been shown, and fans have gone out to search for them. At this point, once one is found, the Everyman Hybrid Twitter is hacked into by a being known as Habit. A few videos pass with the gang trying to follow more clues from Jeff's adventure until a friend of theirs is killed after not following along with the rules set by Habit in a series of trials called the 7 Trials of Habit, which go on for a great portion of the game and are technically still going today. As the trials go on, Jeff eventually goes back on his decision to let Stephanie get detained by the police, and he and the gang bust her out. Though it just so happens that they did so the day she was going to be released anyway.
We figured we'd break you out.
Why right now?
We had blueprints. Well, I mean, you didn't belong in there.
Yeah. No, not right now. Now really wasn't the good time.
Why? No, we figured you'd be happy.
No, I'd be fucking stoked if they weren't releasing me today.
She then starts staying with the Everyman Hybrid crew, and she and Evan even form a relationship that escalates when it's discovered she's pregnant with Evan's child, although this happens a lot later down the timeline. Soon a video is sent to the crew, a compilation of all the videos they can't see that have been uploaded to their channel. Then this happens.
I mean, it's not like we did anything wrong. We were just playing a game.
We used to do it all the time in the home, Doctor. I mean, every weekend we played these games.
We just wanted to find the hidden treasure.
I'm sorry that you and Miss Marianne had to drive this far. We were trying to get back on our own. He got us there in an instant. I don't know why it took us so long to get home.
It's not like we unlocked the door or broke the door or anything. We didn't even use them.
We were just playing pretend. I don't know what happened.
The group seems to relive an experience from their time as the children mentioned in the Corenthal documents in a previous timeline. More on that later. Habit sent some coordinates over to the EverymanHYBRID Twitter account that reveals what is essentially a cipher key to the entire fucking story. An edited version of the book Everyman and Other Miracle and Morality Plays. It describes several events that, in broad terms, follow what happens later on in the story almost exactly. Later, a connection they've had to Dr. Corenthal gives the gang a binder of documents and a key to a storage unit where the Doctor himself shows up after some unexplainable paranormal events and an attack by Slenderman. After following up on more leads, Evan is attacked by the Rake and Alex's dog is killed in the attack, causing Alex's mental health to decline further than it already has. Soon after, Stephanie's blog is hacked into by Habit. He leaves several posts implying that he had possessed several famous serial killers and other infamous historical figures, such as Ed Gein, Albert Fish, and Joseph Mengele. This causes Stephanie to completely abandon the blog and leave it for Habit to post on exclusively. Habit uses the blog to tell several stories, including one very revealing one about a man he's currently possessing named Nick. Back from the earliest videos, you might remember a character named Nick. He was the original actor for Slenderman in the crew's prank and the one suspected of breaking into Evan's house when they thought it wasn't the real Slenderman. We'll come back to Nick in a bit. After an update video, another hidden video was posted the same day that contains one of the biggest reveals in the entire series. It shows the guys sitting around some candles discussing the iteration they just went through and how they've all died and are waiting for the next iteration to begin.
Once episode game, what did happen?
Speaking of games, I got some news from the Habit. He's starting to make this fucking contest or some shit in a couple of months. I think it's gonna have something to do with us, but I know. I don't know. I don't know what he's looking to do.
It gets more and more elaborate each time to see him.
It's just as crazy.
You know why that is.
So I don't know if you guys know, but he got the Doctor. How long ago was that?
5 years.
Yeah, he put up a hell of a fight, though. God, he's a
You
fucking
all people
champ.
would know.
Oh shit, yeah, man, right here. Boom.
That's like 30-something years that guy trucked on.
For us. It was all for us, too.
And if he didn't piss off those fucking things.
Right down with the bag, eh?
Yeah, he did. He did.
That was always the style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I expected nothing less of him. Well, I guess when we're done this iteration, we get a nice little war buddy talk with him.
Except we won't be the American Legion. But
Every time the group dies, a new timeline begins with the characters having no memory of what transpired, a reiteration cycle. The exact nature and cause of the perpetual cycle is, as of yet, unknown. This is the explanation for several paranormal events, such as the characters seeming to change clothes in the middle of their actions in videos shown, the group relapse while trying to watch the hidden videos, and the documents of the children with the same names as those adopted by Dr. Corenthal. These are iteration bleed-throughs. Another blog post from Habit reveals even more about what he's capable of. It describes a man who is actively hunting down Habit finally coming across him, managing to surround him with a SWAT team and a helicopter. The man Habit is possessing takes hundreds of gunshot wounds but still manages to take down a substantial number of the SWAT team with just a fire axe. then gets the rest to turn on each other, killing themselves and even bringing down the helicopter, all to the tune of Super Beast by Rob Zombie. He also previously tortured someone while playing 192000 by Gorillaz, so that should give you an indication of his music tastes. Anyway, soon they just so happen to run into the crew from another Slenderman series, Dark Harvest, on their way to pick up Noah Maxwell from TribeTwelve. All of these series exist in the same universe and cross over frequently.
You guys look goofy as shit pointing your cameras at each other.
I can't believe I'm laughing about this. Ready?
Boom. Soon after, we come back to what happened with Nick. Habit possessed him and sent him over to Evan in order to make them fight to see who was the stronger host body, and Evan won, managing to kill Nick by accepting Habit's help. Soon a friend of theirs is brutally killed by the rake, and that's where the screenshot of the rake in particular comes from if you've ever been curious. On the way to their friend's funeral, Alex is discussing premonitions the rake has been giving him, and as it seems he's about to clue Vinny in on some information, he's killed by Slenderman, stuffed in a trash bag and hung from a tree, like the bags in the forest they've seen before, and like Stephanie's family in a blog post she mentioned. Soon after, the gang is about to follow up on a lead to find out more about Dr. Corenthal, so Jeff goes over to Evan's house to get him. He walks through the house for a while not finding Evan, and getting progressively more and more creeped out before Evan attacks and captures him. As Vinny follows up on Jeff's lead, he finds a strange mishmash of all their houses, and is attacked by Slenderman before being saved and taken into what seems to be another dimension by Dr. Corenthal, though he's soon put back into the normal world. Directly following this, Habit, now fully possessing Evan, breaks into someone's house and prepares the attic as a torture chamber for Jeff.
This is where the magic is gonna fucking happen, kid. See that floodlight? I want that floodlight plugged in over there in that corner. You got it? Now, the floodlight goes out, you plug it back in. Where I want you to aim the floodlight is right here at this kiddo chair. That's where little Jeffers is gonna be. That's where I'm gonna call him. Mostly. I'll probably be all over the place, honestly, here and there on the floor. Just try to follow as best you can. You got it?
He keeps Jeff there for some time, brutally torturing and beating him.
Not you. No. Not you. Not Steph. Not Corenthal. That's why he punishes them. Takes everything from them. Children. Family. Friends. Pets. Well, that was really his department, but still. Now it's time to break it for real. What else do you have to take? What do you mean? Sound broken? What else do I have? You'd be surprised at what I can take from you.
In his next video, Habit shows himself killing one of the group's friends in a manner substantially more morbidly funny than anything in a certain clown creepypasta I've read recently.
Alright, take a deep breath. I want you to come into the room. The kitchen. I want you to have a seat.
What the fuck?
I know, I was gonna warn you about that.
Why'd you invite me here?
Dan, I didn't know that this was gonna happen. It's a little inconvenient, don't you think?
Who are they?
Who are they? Well, they're not professional with how they set up this fucking kill room, that's for damn sure. Look at that, it's messy. Oh, you're serious? Is you breathing okay? Oh, what's that, a knife? Yeah, you should get that knife. Oh. What happened?
Before he not only kills off Jeff by burning him alive, he also kills Stephanie and kills her and Evan's baby by fucking eating her. Jeff is burned alive right in front of Slenderman, and considering Slenderman considered the Everyman Hybrid crew his property, this caused heavy strain on whatever deal they had going on. After this, however, Evan seems to be freed from Habit's control temporarily with little to no memory of events that transpired. But as he goes through the house he took over, he slowly regains his memories until he opens a door that shows the aftermath of everything he's done.
Oh, no, I remember you. I remember this door. I remember that doorknob. I remember that latch. I remember this. I remember.
I remember screaming. I remember blood. I remember. No. You don't see shit! I remember! I did this. What is it? I can remember Jeff. I can remember him begging. I can remember Steph. I can remember her crying. I can remember my baby. I can remember her crying. I can remember her bones against my teeth. I can remember.
Evan is broken by this and says that he's going to kill himself and attempts to do so by fighting the rake to the death. He does exactly that, coming back to Vinny afterwards describing how the rake ripped his intestines out, but he remains perfectly fine.
It tore at me, and I tore at it. I held its fucking head in my hands, Vinny. I held its head in my hands, and do you know what it did? It gnashed at me. It just kept talking, and its body kept fucking moving. It hit me in the stomach, and my fucking intestines fell out. Does it look like they fucking fell out? No! Because nothing changed, Vinny.
With Evan back to his normal self, Vinny does something monumentally stupid and tries to summon Habit because he's the only one who can give them more leads on what to do next.
Okay, well that's a bad idea.
Habit takes Vinny around for a while, killing one of the viewers who found a box that they were led to by a series of coordinates before Evan regains control of his body again sometime later, though he succumbs once again as he keeps Vinny going on his murder spree, this time killing Sean from another Slenderman series, ML Anderson. After this, Vinny realizes he still isn't getting anywhere with Habit and calls off their deal, trying to leave, but Habit knocks him unconscious and leaves him in a room with a timer slowly counting down. We don't get to see what happens once the countdown reaches 0 until much later, but after he escapes the room, he and Evan, once again freed from Habit's control, hide out from some new mysterious figures in an apartment. Evan leaves after a few weeks, leaving Vinny trapped in the apartment for 2 years, barely giving out any hints on what will happen next. After he seems to escape, Habit tracks him down and captures him, telling Vinny they're going to try to kill the Slenderman together. But first, Vinny needs to be punished for not showing us what happened when he was trapped in the room with the timer. He got sent to the basement with nothing but the loaded gun, and Vinny takes the gun and kills himself. We know this is impossible because obviously Vinny is still alive afterwards, so the nature of what took place here is still unknown. The latest update was a simple video with Vinny, still Habit's captive, letting us know what's going on, and that Habit is preparing him for something we don't know anything about yet. And that's the entire story to Everyman Hybrid so far. I'm sorry this took up half the video, but there's too much important shit for me to just skip over. Before I talk about the characters or fucking writing or anything else, this needs to be addressed. For the average Joe YouTube viewer, this is way, way too complicated to follow along with. If you don't know what you're getting into, which is something akin to a 10,000 piece puzzle, you're going to have a very difficult time. In the Marble Hornets video, I mentioned my problem with web series where you have to follow several different social media accounts to know what's happening in the story. EverymanHYBRID is the most extreme example of this I've ever seen. You have to follow the main YouTube channel, the Twitter account, Habit's Twitter account for the 7 trials, Stephanie's Tumblr blog, Stephanie's Twitter account, Alex's YouTube channel. There's several videos on at least 7 accounts of fans going to find what are essentially geocaches that contain crucial elements to the plot. You have to see at least a few TribeTwelve videos, especially Severance and Bridge to Nowhere. There's a few videos on ML Anderson that contain crossovers with EverymanHYBRID. I even found what looked like some hidden or maybe non-canon videos in this playlist that I have no idea where they fit into everything. Not to mention a practical novella of written media scattered throughout real papers in caches for fans to find, and several files online, including one that's even hidden in a Minecraft map. Ignoring those hidden ones and discounting the written media in the form of Cornwall documents, we have at least 15 social media accounts to follow in order to understand everything you need to know about the plot. Holy shit. Marble Hornets was a grand total of 3 accounts, and even then the Twitter was almost entirely supplementary. Not to mention, like Marble Hornets, this series tells you a lot of information in an indirect way, so it's difficult to tell if what someone said or did was crucially important. Now thankfully there's no codes here that are impossible to answer, but even still, this coats the series in a layer of barbed wire for the average viewer. Which is me, and also probably you. Now having the YouTube videos be on multiple different accounts isn't such a bad thing, because like I found, you can put those all in a playlist and convey the information that way. But someone still has to find all those accounts somehow. That's putting a lot of work on someone, but I guess that's just for the truly hardcore fans, not just us average viewers. Now EverymanHYBRID does bring up these non-YouTube accounts on the channel. For example, they talk about Stephanie's blog, Can You See the Words, a few times and show it in the videos, and the blog has a link to her Twitter. They bring up their Twitter in the first episode and link it in their video descriptions, but you still have to go through those accounts in order to find the information you're looking for, going back up to 7 years for some accounts. This is something I'll be bringing up in the next video, but as for EverymanHYBRID, I think this is its biggest flaw. It can feel overwhelming and downright inaccessible. Let's move on. After talking at length for what I see as the series' biggest flaw, now I get to talk about its biggest strengths. One of the biggest for me is definitely the characters and the acting. EverymanHYBRID's characters have personality, and you get a sense of knowing these guys as a result of watching the videos. I've seen a lot of people describe Red Letter Media videos like Best of the Worst as friendship simulators, and I get that kind of vibe from EverymanHYBRID. The series we're going to be talking about next has a strong sense of isolation as a major theme, but EverymanHYBRID I feel is almost the opposite. It's more like a sense of camaraderie. You also really get a lot of insight into every one of the major characters. As much shit as I was giving the social media accounts you have to follow, they open a lot of windows into the mindsets of every single one. Stephanie's blog is a massive one for her, and later in the series Habit. Also something I talked about in my Marble Hornets video was the characters in that series seem to be driven exclusively by the plot. But that's not really an issue here in EverymanHYBRID. When Evan goes charging at fucking Slenderman with a baseball bat, he's not gonna do that because, you know, it's gonna get him to the next point of the plot. He's doing that because that's just part of his personality. On the subject of Habit, let's talk about his character. I'm very impressed with the crew for coming up with a completely original monster to put in their Slenderman series and giving him center stage. It'd be really easy to just stick with Slenderman or the Rake or both and keep them in the spotlight because they're very popular and would get a lot of views. But Habit became incredibly popular on his own merit, and that's something that really impresses me. That is not an easy thing to accomplish by any means. Good job on that one, guys. Habit can get a little too edgy for my taste, like the post on Can You See the Words where he's talking about the other people he's previously possessed to do evil things like Joseph Mengele and Albert Fish. I think Evan's reaction to Habit killing Stephanie and eating their fucking baby kind of balances that action out in terms of edginess. On that topic, let's talk about the acting. I think I'd get crucified by EverymanHYBRID fans if I didn't talk about Evan's acting in this video. And yeah, I agree with them. I think he's a really great, very natural actor. I really feel for him when he's talking about how Habit killed his friends while possessing him. I think everyone else's performance are kind of understated as a result of this, but regardless, they're all great. Some scenes with Alex feel genuinely uncomfortable and capture that sort of feeling perfectly. Like Vinny, Jeff, all those other characters, they just have really good chemistry and they all seem like great friends on screen. These guys are talented on all fronts. Speaking of talent, let's get to the writing of the series. So once you break everything down, once you finally put all the pieces of the puzzle together, how is the story and the writing? It's pretty good at the moment. I say at the moment because the series isn't completed yet, and I still have some unanswered questions that I'm fairly certain will be answered in some way by the series end. Let's go over some of those. Okay, so Habit wants to possess Evan because he's looking for a perfect host body that won't die ever, and he wants this so he can do... Habit is constantly tormenting the Everyman Hybrid crew in horrible ways because... I feel like a lot of Habit's behaviors can be explained by he's just crazy and evil, which isn't entirely compelling, but I won't judge on that entirely before the series is even over. That's just how I feel presently. We haven't been given much insight into Habit's real motivations aside from the fact that he has a beef with Slenderman at the moment and wants him out of the picture. Is what I said in my first draft of this script, but I have to hand it to one of the commenters on the Everyman Hybrid wiki who left a fantastic comment that answers at least one of these questions. Good job, random nameless wiki user. You get full credit for figuring this one out when I couldn't see it in front of my stupid face. Habit's theatricality and tormenting of the Everyman Hybrid crew, keeping fans going with hints and clues, puzzles to solve. He wanted to bring in an audience. Once he had a sizable enough audience, once he established the fan base as a group of people willing to go out and participate in the real world, he created the 7 trials to find a perfect and compliant host body. The last one to keep their body breathing is the strongest of all the potential candidates, and the one most willing to go along with his crazy shit. If Habit was working with Slenderman, it explains why he'd want Slenderman to go after the guys. That would help draw an audience and create intrigue. And it also explains why Jeff says on multiple occasions to stop watching their videos. He doesn't want to wrap the fans into the chaos. In theory at least, this isn't proven yet, but damn if I don't want it to be now. Though it still doesn't quite answer the question of what he'll do once he has the perfect host body. Some other minor problems I have with Habit are, 1, his reveal as using Evan as a host body was a bit too obvious. Very early on in the series you can tell that there's something seriously wrong with Evan. It just feels a bit too telegraphed for me. It's not as subtle as the Tim Maskey reveal in Marble Hornets. Another problem I have is that Habit as a villain is way too powerful. Having your characters go up against some kind of god and giving them a feeling of hopelessness is fine and all, but I'd like to see some hint that they have even the faintest chance of beating this. And for Vinny, who's the only one left, I just don't see that. Habit can take down a fucking SWAT team by himself with nothing but a fire axe. And that was in a body that wasn't nearly perfect enough for him. I just don't realistically see Vinny living through this. He simply can't kill Habit. He's basically omniscient. The only time Habit didn't seem to see something coming and was genuinely surprised was when Vinny did something monumentally stupid in the form of summoning Habit directly to him. Every other time he's been no less than 10 steps ahead of the guys, and it conveys the feeling that this is all planned out by Habit and there's no way the guys can win under any circumstances. The Doctor is the only wild card here, and I'm not sure how influential he is or how he can change this course. It seems he killed Evan as Habit in a previous iteration.
He put up a hell of a fight though. God, he's a
You of all
fucking
people would
champ.
know.
Oh shit, yeah man, right here. Boom.
But Vinny still has to deal with Slenderman and the Rake, 2 other very powerful supernatural forces that we don't know how he can beat. Now there is a way he might be able to beat Slenderman, but I'll come back to that in the next video. The Rake, on the other hand, well, Evan certainly tried that and that got him nowhere. It all just feels way too hopeless for these guys, and I don't see how they can beat someone as strong as Habit without some serious interference from outside forces. Anyway, back to the writing of the story. A lot of it reminds me of what J.J. Abrams calls a mystery box style of writing. You start off with a big mystery and add lots of smaller mysteries along the way to keep the audience's attention. Never mind actually answering them. J.J. Abrams is a lot worse at this than the Everyman Hybrid guys. They actually bother to answer most questions, although in an indirect and often difficult to find way. Not to mention the series isn't over yet, so as much as I'd like to know what the fuck happened to Vinny's beard here or how Evan survived getting disemboweled by the Rake, I can be sure those questions will be answered. and they can sort of be explained by the idea of iteration bleed-throughs like we've seen elsewhere in the series. On the subject of the iteration cycle, it's a very unique and cool concept that I haven't really seen utilized or imitated elsewhere. This type of thing is something I've considered doing myself if I were to make a web series, although on a slightly smaller scale. Coming up with comparisons for this type of reiteration cycle is hard, because it's not like Groundhog Day or Madoka where the main character or whoever remembers all the events from the past iterations. It's very unique and interesting. Some characters seem to remember certain details of past iterations. Some past events from other iterations still seem to exist in this one as though they already happened. Certain iterations take place in totally different times and places. It creates a great deal of mystery, which, while further complicating how hard it is to follow everything, creates a great sense of intrigue to find out what's really going on. Marble Hornets may have had Jay playing the role of detective, trying to solve the mystery behind Alex's disappearance, but we are solving the mystery in Everyman Hybrid. We are the detectives. And we know so much that the main characters don't or can't know, so it feels like when we solve a puzzle or crack a code, we're making a real impact. And on the subject of making a real impact, let's talk about the ARG elements. Getting to this part is what separates Everyman Hybrid from pretty much every single web series I've seen. A lot of web series and ARGs will have lots of puzzles to solve and codes to crack, but that's about as far as it goes in terms of audience interaction, like I talked about with Marble Hornets. Everyman Hybrid does the best job of bringing together both an online story and a real-life interactive experience that I've ever seen. It puts the reality in alternate reality game. It also at one point put the game in alternate reality game, as there was one point where you could download a Minecraft map that, when played through, unlocked a password to some documents that revealed more of the story. You can actually still download and play the map to this day. Back to the ARG elements, Everyman Hybrid has, multiple times in the past, required its audience to participate in the story by making them do things in real life such as find hidden clues out in the wilderness and put puzzle pieces together. Rather than to-the-arc style codes, this is how a lot of information is revealed to the audience, and it's very cool and interesting. That's not where it ends though. The 7 trials of habit made people do, honestly, pretty embarrassing things in public, several videos of which are still around on YouTube to see to this day. This is the sort of audience participation aspect I was really looking for in Marble Hornets, even though, again, it's difficult to put together since it's across several different accounts. Not to mention, discovering the information affects the story since the characters can't find out a lot of information themselves. This one time when they try to watch hidden videos that they can't see on their channel, they all block it out and have a group relapse of a past iteration. So what we do in terms of puzzle solving helps the entire story come together for both us and the characters within it, unlike Marble Hornets, where Jay was already solving the puzzles which were the only interactive element. I think this is one of the series' most outstanding strong points, and I hope to see more elements like this implemented in the series' future. So from everything we've talked about so far, Everyman Hybrid is complicated in just about every measure. The story is not easy to follow by any stretch of the imagination, but what's underneath that giant layer of barbed wire is pretty interesting and original. Marble Hornets was a good all-around series. There was nothing it was really terrible at, and it was good at what it did. Everyman Hybrid has one major, gaping flaw that prevents me from recommending it to everyone without a massive disclaimer first, but everything else it does is really unique and interesting. It has great, likable characters, it has a good story so far, fantastically implemented ARG elements, the effects are nice, I really like how the rake looks in this series, I think it's the scariest part of the whole damn thing honestly. The acting is great, especially for a YouTube web series, it's not derivative at all aside from just being a Slenderman series. It's all solid once you get over that massive hurdle. This series gets a thumbs up for me with a massive asterisk. I'd highly recommend watching the Explained series on Nightmind's channel if you want to get into the series. Everyman Hybrid didn't turn out to be the boring mess that I thought it was going in, but I don't think it's quite the godsend that a lot of the fans consider it to be. It's a solid web series with a big flaw, one that some who really enjoy cracking puzzles may not even consider to be a flaw, and if it's something that interests you, I'd recommend giving it a look. That's the episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we take a quick vacation to Florida. We thought New Jersey was bad. Oh, just you fucking wait. Until next time.